Hello and welcome to the next episode of my channel where I'll be taking up the lesson The Necklace from class 10th CBSE. Now, in this chapter, we are going to talk about a very beautiful and charming lady. Her name was Matilda, and there was only one problem in her life. According to her, she was destined to be born in a very rich family. But unfortunately, she was born in a middle class family and she was married to a clerk in the education department. Now she should have been happy with whatever she had. She had a loving husband. She was not a poor lady. She had maids at home. She had everything. But then she was always daydreaming about things which she could not have, but she wanted them. So one day her husband got an invitation to a party, and it was a very huge party. It was a very famous, it was a place where many famous dignitaries were going to come, and he was happy, and he felt that his wife would be happy too, reading the invitation. But on the contrary, the wife was not at all happy. Why? Because she did not have any proper dress to wear. Her husband, being a simple man, suggested her to wear the same dress which they wore to the theatre. But she was not happy about it. So her husband gave her the 400 francs which he had saved for his own gun for the hunting trips to shoot larks. He gave the same money to her. He wanted her to be happy. He gave her the money so that she could have a pretty dress of her choice. Such a loving husband. But was she considerate about him? Not at all. Now, the next problem which she faces is that she did not have jewels to match with her dress. Her husband again suggested her to wear fresh flowers. She would look ecstatic in that. She would look beautiful in that. But she was again sad. She didn't want to go. At that point of time, her husband suggested her to go to her best friend, Madame Forestier, who was well-to-do. And Matilda had often avoided visiting Mrs. Forestier, even though she was her friend, because Matilda would have become happy seeing how well-to-do she was. Matilda would have become jealous. Matilda would have paid pity on her own self if she would have visited Forestier. So she had avoided her. But in this occasion, she was ready to go to Forestier, and Mrs. Forestier, did the duty of being a good friend. She showed her all the jewels she had. She even gave her a beautiful diamond necklace. So Matilda finally reached the party, and she was a success at the party. Everybody wanted to dance with her. All the time when she was dancing, her poor husband was sleeping in a small room. She was not considerate about her husband, that he had to go to the office the next day and she should better leave. She was thoroughly enjoying. And after the party, when it was time to reach home, it was time to go home. Again, she wanted to avoid view. She did not want anyone to see her. Why? Because the wrap which her husband had put around her shoulder was very modest. She didn't want the other people to look at her, wearing that modest wrap, whereas the other people were covered in rich furs. So somehow they reached home, and she wanted to have a last look of herself before she changed. But then something happened which changed her destiny forever. The necklace was missing. Her husband went back on the same path trying to find the necklace. They went to the police station, they gave an ad in the newspaper, but to no avail. So finally her husband gave her an idea to buy some time from Mrs. Forestier because they had to return it. So he dictated a letter to her, and he asked her to post that letter to Mrs. Forestier, stating that as the clasp of the necklace was broken, she would need some days to repair it. This was only to buy time so that In the meantime, they could substitute the real necklace. They would buy a necklace which was almost the same as Mrs. Forestier's necklace. They finally got a necklace which was almost similar, but the main problem was the cost. Somehow they bargained the cost to 36,000 francs. The husband had 18,000 francs which he had got from his father. But what about the remaining 80,000? He had to borrow from so many people. Okay, from usurers and whole race of lenders. He borrowed this money and finally they bought the necklace and returned it to Madame Forestier. But Matilda was scared when she had gone to return the necklace. What if Mrs. Forestier notices that the necklace is not the same? But thankfully, Madame Forestier did not open the necklace to see. Now, the main problem is the money which they have borrowed. They have to return it. For that, they had to work very, very hard. They had to shift to a modest quarter, and the lady, that is Matilda, had to do all the work herself. They sent the maid away. The husband is doing triple work, morning, evening, night. He is working day and night just to earn money and pay it off to the lenders. Finally, 10 years got over and the money was paid off. But even then, at times, Matilda used to remember that day of the ball and how famous she had become. And she used to think, what if she had not lost the necklace? Her life would have been different. One day, Matilda noticed her friend, Madame Forestier, in the park, and she decided that she should go and meet her. After all, now the money had been paid off and Madame Forestier had already got her necklace. As predicted, Madame Forestier could not recognize Matilda. Could it be the same Matilda? The beautiful Matilda? Now, Matilda looked so old because of the hard work she had put in for the 10 years. And this is when Matilda gets the shock of her life. When she tells Madame Forestier about the necklace incident and how they had replaced the incident, she comes to know that the necklace which Madame Forestier had lent to her was a fake one. So this is the chapter necklace, and what do we take from this chapter? Number 1, be happy with what you have. Count your blessings. Number 2, she should have been honest and told her friend about the issue. Right? And number 3, always count your blessings. She had a loving husband and she should have been happy with what she had. Right? So I hope you have understood. Thank you.